What's up everybody, Blizzard has just announced several more major changes which are going to be coming to hero balance on the PTR, and oh boy, these are definitely targeted at nerfing GOATS comp. I'm confident there are going to be some players who are not going to be happy about these changes though, so this is Master Ian Gamer, and let's get into it. Now at the time of me recording, these have not actually gone to the PTR yet. We only know of them because Jeff Goodman has been filling us in on the Overwatch forums. These will end up being on the same PTR patch as the previous hero changes, which I covered in a video of mine yesterday, as well as the new hero Baptiste. But anyways, let's get right on into these changes because they're pretty significant. First up, Junkrat Frag Launcher impact damage increased from 40 to 60. This means that he's just flat out gonna do more damage upon direct hits. His total damage dealt upon a direct hit was previously 120, since there was the 40 damage from impact plus the 80 damage from the explosion. Now that's gonna get ramped up to 140 damage total, which overall is gonna give him quite a bit higher of a damage output. This means he can now two-shot 250 health heroes such as Reaper, and overall when it comes to hitting big targets like especially barriers and tank heroes, he's gonna be dishing out quite a bit more damage. This seems very clearly a nerf to the triple tank, triple support GOATS comp, and I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Again, this is a situation where I really like playing Junkrat, so maybe this will be a good time for me to try playing him a little bit more when I get the opportunity, of course. Next up is for Lucio, and this one is going to be rough. Speed Song effect lowered from 30% to 20%, Amp It Up effect reduced from 70% to 50%, and a wall ride passive move speed gained while wall riding increased from 20% to 40%. This is a hard nerf to Lucio. Now, I do have to say, if you're talking about trying to nerf GOATS, this is an incredibly effective way of doing that. However, the downside is, this is gonna suck for Lucio players, especially players who aren't even at the level where they're playing in triple tank, triple support comps. If you're just, average Lucio trying to help out your team, you're gonna be much less effective at doing that because you can't speed boost your team as well overall. And it is going to be really unfortunate that Lucio players are going to have to adjust to this, but I am very confident that this is overall a positive change. Speed boost, while it has been in the game since launch, I feel like is one of those abilities that can be kind of controversial. It's incredibly strong when used properly, as we've seen in several different metas over the years, and so nerfing it like this probably is a good idea, or at the very least is an interesting direction for Blizzard to go in and see what sort of changes this ends up resulting in overall. I mean, Blizzard could always just go back and revert this nerf if it doesn't turn out well, but for now, I'm excited to see them trying something like this. Additionally, it should be noted that the wall ride speed change is actually a buff for Lucio, because not only is it compensating for the nerf of his Speed Song effect, but also it lets him move faster while on the healing song as well. So this is going to make wall riding much stronger, but his overall ability to help speed boost his team is going to be weaker. Overall, this is definitely a net nerf, but it's one that I'm excited to see play out. Next up, Mccree. Bonus damage ramp from the previous change will now begin after 1.5 seconds, down from 2.5 seconds. For reference, this is the change that it's referring to. This is one that I covered in my previous video, and basically this is just going to make it more effective at charging up damage on higher health targets, namely tank heroes. So overall, just a flat out buff to Deadeye, and one that I'm not too worried about, and is probably going to be pretty good for Mccree. Reaper, passive healing amount reduced from 50% to 40%. Yeah, this was basically inevitable. I mean, the healing buff he had gotten previously was pretty strong, and clearly didn't have the intended effects they were wanting it to have when it came to countering heavy tank comps. So I'm glad to see that they're toning it back a little bit. I've already gotten pretty used to the heavy healing that Reaper has at this point, so overall this is just going to make it easier to deal with him, and yeah, it's probably a good change. Now here's another big one. Symetra Photon Projector primary fire damage ramp speed increased by 20%. There you go, guys. People have been calling for Symetra buffs, and you finally got one. Now, I do not play a whole ton of Symetra. In fact, I don't ever touch her at all, basically. But this does seem like it's going to be a decent buff. Maybe not quite enough for what people are wanting or what she really needs as a hero. And I do think this was probably also done partially to compensate for the armor changes that were in the previous patch, where Symetra was going to end up actually doing less damage against armored targets. So after this patch goes through, the overall net changes to Symetra seem like they're going to be buffed a little bit, but not too massively, so we'll have to wait and see what other sort of changes end up going through for her in the future. Hopefully she gets a little love, but we're going to have to wait and see. Next up, Zarya. Particle Cannon alternate fire radius decreased from 2 to 3 meters to 1 to 2 meters, of course based on energy level. This is an interesting change. This is going to make it much harder for her to farm ultimate charge just between fights, because normally as a Zarya player you just spam your alternate fire into the enemy teams to deal some damage and gain ult charge. Now that you have a smaller impact radius of your alternate fire, it is going to be a bit harder to hit targets with it and thus gain charge. This is of course a flat out nerf, and I won't say she doesn't need it. Zarya is pretty strong right now, and she has been quite a bit historically over the years, so I think this is probably going to be going in a good direction for her. I'm not too concerned about this killing her off or anything, but it is definitely going to make it a bit more difficult to play her. And last but not least, Zenyatta. Orb of Discord, effect reduced from 30% to 25%. Orb of Destruction, damage increased from 46 to 48. So what this is a flat out nerf to Discord. However, the damage buff actually compensates for the damage that he loses against discorded targets. So because of these changes, Zenyatta is still going to deal roughly the same amount of damage to targets himself, but his teammates won't be doing as much damage due to the nerf from 30% to 25%. Again, Discord has always been a very strong ability historically in Overwatch, so having them nerf it at this point is going to lead to some rather interesting changes, I suspect. Whether a 5% reduction is really going to cause any major changes in terms of the metas we see is something we're going to have to really kind of see how it plays out. Again, there are just so many changes going through on this single patch version that who knows what we're going to end up seeing on the other side once it goes to live servers. There's a lot of different parts which are going to be working together to make certain heroes better and other heroes worse, so admittedly it's not easy to say what the overall impact is going to end up being. Anyways, that does it for these upcoming PTR changes. As I said, these have not gone to the PTR at the time of me recording, but it does sound like they're intended to go up by the end of this week, so we'll get to play around with those hopefully pretty soon. Otherwise though, as I said, be sure to check out my patch update video from yesterday where I covered all the previous hero changes, which there were even more of than the ones we saw today. And otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. Leave your thoughts about any of these hero changes down in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and share it with a friend if you really liked it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit up the bell to never miss any future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.